What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another KingJvpes video. Now today's video is going to be on a camera that is very special. I've talked about this camera on the channel a couple of times before. I've told you guys 5 reasons why you should buy it, and I also went out there and shot a video shooting the camera, but I've never actually sat down to tell you guys about it and give you guys a full rundown and review. This camera is actually, honestly in my opinion, in 2018, one of the best values that you can get when you're getting into film photography. You know, other than the X700, this is the only other camera that I would recommend for entry-level shooters. And of course, that camera is the Canon A1. Alright you guys, now the Canon A1, like I said before, is probably one of my favorite cameras in my film photography collection for a number of reasons. First of all, its affordability. It's actually really affordable. When you go out there, the Canon A1 hasn't really gotten the limelight that it should have in the past year or so. And when I first started shooting film, this camera was actually fairly expensive. It was more than the AE1 program. But you know, film YouTubers, influencers alike, all kind of, you know, recommend the AE1 program, and they all overlook this gem right here, the A1. This, in my opinion, is hands down at least 50 times better than the AE1 program. You can find the A1 right now ranging between, you know, 50 bucks to 130 bucks in good condition, with or without a lens. And you know, honestly, if you look around and you shop around, you can find really good deals on this camera, making it one of the most affordable cameras on the market today. Now let's go ahead and start off with the history of the Canon A1. The A1 actually was a semi-professional model from Canon. I believe they were produced from like 1975 to 1980 something. Let me go ahead and double check on that. Canon made the A1 from April 1978 to 1985. So there was a good run of years that this camera was actually sold. Now, of course, this camera is not a 100% mechanical camera. It actually requires a battery that's inside of this little grip. So in order to take it off, you're gonna need a little twisty knob. Let me grab one really quick. Let's use a fork and untwist this little, it's kind of like a grip. And the grip here actually is really useful. So if you can find an A1, you guys, with the grip, I highly recommend it. All right, so after you go ahead and take that grip off here, there's gonna be this little piece that you're gonna push up on, and that's gonna go ahead and expose the battery compartment right there. Now the battery I believe that the A1 takes is this little guy right here. It's called the PX28 battery, and you can find this on any camera website like KEH or Adorama for fairly cheap. So definitely you're gonna need some batteries. I always recommend you guys, if you're gonna have an A1, to always carry a couple of extra batteries just in case. You never know when you're gonna have to use it. Now, what makes this camera special to me is the features that are on the camera. If you look up here at the top, you're gonna go ahead and see a feature set here. Now there's AV and TV, and basically the A1 features 4 main programs, and it was actually the first programmable film camera to do it. It features aperture priority, shutter priority, you get manual exposure, and you also have program mode. So that's the 4, you know, main and big essential, I guess you could say programmable modes, or just modes in general, that you can have on a camera. That's what you see on, you know, the daily DSLRs that we shoot today. Now let's go ahead and zoom in here and show you guys exactly what's on here. Here's the AV switch. AV stands for aperture priority. TV stands for a shutter priority. And the way you go ahead and switch that over is there's gonna be this little switch at the top here. Let me see if I can go ahead and move that over. So this little switch will go ahead and change the mode in the windows here. Now, if you're on TV, you can access shutter priority simply by setting your lens to A, and then just go ahead and select your desired shutter. Or you can use this to go ahead and just shoot manual mode. You know, just set it into TV, select your shutter, and then select your aperture. Now, if you want to shoot aperture priority, just go ahead and switch this over to A. And once you switch it over, you're gonna see in this little window, it's gonna show all of the apertures from 1.4 all the way up to f22. And then, you know, just go ahead and set your lens to A again, and then, you know, select your desired aperture. So it's really intuitive to go ahead and use, but it's also a really effective camera. Now, one of the cool features about the A1 is that you have a lock mechanism. So let's say you don't want to shoot any frames, just go ahead and put it on that L right there. So just go ahead and chamfer that over. The A is just gonna stay, available that you're ready to shoot. And the A1 features something that a lot of other cameras don't, and that is a double exposure feature. Now on the back here, there's this little switch. And what you wanna do when you go ahead and shoot a double exposure is, first of all, take your first frame, shoot it. Now, once you go ahead and shoot that first frame, go ahead and pull this and push that little lever under the film advance, and this little red dot is gonna show. Now, when you go ahead and advance the film, it's not actually gonna advance it anymore. And so what you'll end up doing is you're gonna shoot on that exact same frame. On the left side of the camera here, you're gonna have a couple of different functions. You have an ASA dial, so this is for you to be able to set your camera's ISO accordingly to the film, and you also have that film rewind lever. So this camera is honestly packed with a ton of features, and when you look at this camera and you shoot it, it's insanely intuitive to use. You do have to get kind of used to the controls and the dials because it's not the traditional just one dial on that side and then you go ahead and select your shutter speed. It's something different, I should say. Now, one of the great things about the Canon A1 is that it takes the Canon FD lenses. And for those of you guys who are into collecting vintage lenses or just know about these lenses in general, they are one of the sharpest glass, legacy glass that you can get out there, opposed to, some like the Nikon glass. You can get L series glass for this guy right here. Unfortunately, I don't have any. I wish I did, but I mean, there are a ton of great lenses that you can put on this camera. The few that I recommend are first this guy right here. This is the Canon 35mm 2.8 lens. Great for street photography, great wide angle lens. You also have the Canon 28mm 2.8 and then the Canon 50mm 1.8. If you have the money, I would definitely recommend getting the 1.4. Although I don't see a huge difference in the two, the 1.4 just gives you that extra stop of light. So the Canon A1, folks, is an extremely solid camera. And like I said, I shoot this all the time for street photography. One of the great things about it, like I said, other than the double exposure, is that you have auto metering. So if you're just getting into film photography and you don't know Sunny 16 or you don't know your exposures yet, this is gonna help you. It's gonna help you a lot because you can go out there, practically turn this camera into a point and shoot, look through the viewfinder and go ahead and focus. And while we're on the topic of the viewfinder, let's go ahead and talk about that. Now, when you look inside the viewfinder is actually really bright and really big. One of the great things is that when you half press that shutter, kind of like how you do on a DSLR or mirrorless nowadays, it's gonna show some information at the bottom there. It's gonna show your shutter speed, it's gonna show your aperture, and it's gonna also show you what mode you're in. It's a really good thing that you can look inside the viewfinder and you don't have to pull your eye away. You can practically just change all of your settings while you still look into that viewfinder. Another cool feature is that if you're gonna shoot some landscape photography and you don't wanna have any excess light, like you're gonna shoot a long exposure, there's this little switch on the top here by the viewfinder. You go ahead and switch that and it's gonna block out the light from the viewfinder. So if you find yourself ever shooting long exposures, that's an extra added addition to it, to where you can make sure that there's no light that enters through. A couple of other features on the camera. On the bottom here, you have a depth of field preview. You go ahead and glue that and it's gonna show you what aperture you're gonna be shooting at. So I believe right now I have it set to f/22. Now folks, that's pretty much the entire camera. The only thing that I see is a drawback, first of all, of course, is that it takes a battery and that, you have to go ahead and learn how to use this little system right here because to be truth, it's a little clustered in there. But over time and the more you get and understand the camera, you're gonna find that it's really easy to use. It's a great camera that you can shoot portrait photography, street photography with. And overall, you guys, you will not get disappointed with the Canon A1. So folks, if you're interested in picking one of these up, I have a couple links down in the description below where you guys can check that out. Like I said, it's an amazing camera. I would suggest, looking around, trying to find a good deal on it. Pick yourself up a 50mm and a 35mm, and then you should be set for portraits or for landscape street photography. It'll cover pretty much any of your photography needs. Best bet, I wouldn't spend over 150 bucks unless it included a really good condition A1 and also, a couple of lenses. And one thing you have to look out for, especially with the A1 or the A1 program, is something they call the Canon shutter squeak. And what that is, it's pretty much when you go ahead and hit that shutter, you're gonna hear like a squeaking noise. All it is that there's a mechanism in there that's kind of dried up and it needs to be re-oiled. You can still shoot it with that mechanism squeak, but it's gonna be really annoying. that's gonna wrap it up, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the Canon A1 review. I'm sorry it wasn't too technical or if I was all over the place. I haven't shot a camera review in a while, but I do have a couple of new cameras for sale on my website. Head over to KingJvpesPhoto.com and go ahead and shop around there. Got some really cool stuff. And also, if you guys want to, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at KingJvpes. I pretty much update my Instagram about new YouTube videos or cameras that I have for sale, flash sales, print sales, all of that stuff. And you guys can see all of my photos and content on there. So I appreciate you guys for watching, man. Thank you so much. And as always, Minolta gang. Whew.